So when it comes to hiring remote workers, there's obviously a lot of problems that business owners can face when hiring and making sure that they're trying to get the best remote workers they can find to actually help them grow their business instead of take more time and resources away from the business. And so many times I work with small business owners, and this is exactly what I see. They tend to make hiring decisions and training and onboarding decisions that they just don't quite understand how it's going to impact their working relationship with the remote worker, and if that's really actually bringing them a quality remote worker that's going to help them grow their business. And so there's a lot of problems, but I want to focus on some of the commonalities that I see with business owners these days and their struggles with hiring remote workers. Obviously, there's a lot of different aspects to hiring remote workers. You have culture, you have languages, you have time zones. There are so many details that come into play when you start thinking about hiring remote workers. But really, a lot of those things can easily be navigated if you just have your simple systems and processes and organization.
That's good news.
Typically, those things aren't really the biggest problems when it comes to small business owners hiring remote workers. Typically, the problem is actually going to be you and me, the small business owners ourselves. So let me explain. Obviously, if you've been around in business for the past few years, you've heard of remote workers, you've heard of virtual assistants, and you've probably heard good and bad scenarios with both. You've probably heard someone say, oh, I expanded my business all through remote workers. And you've probably heard some people say, I tried hiring a remote worker and they, stole some of my data, or they, just cost me a lot of money, or, they just weren't really effective. And so what is the real story here? Well, obviously, when it comes to hiring remote workers, what we're trying to do is we're trying to automate our business through hiring a team and giving them tools to use. So that way we can be more freed up. So that way we have more time. And this is absolutely doable and achievable when hiring remote workers. And so I want to tell you that you absolutely can go out and you can find quality remote workers at decent prices that are going to come in. They're going to be passionate about helping your team grow, passionate about helping your business grow, and they're going to be well worth the investment versus someone in your home country, especially if you're from, a Western developed country where, employee rates are quite a bit more, and you have to worry about things like taxes, insurance, and it's just a whole big complicated mess and very expensive. You can absolutely go out, you can find remote workers that are going to help you build your business and allow you to have more time back so you can enjoy your life and do more of what you love. You just have to know how to do it correctly.
I will.
Another reason why we look to hire remote workers is because we really want to be focused more on higher level decision making in the business. We don't want to be worried about, what exactly each post should be about. We don't want to necessarily, or you shouldn't necessarily be worried about, every little detail of every little thing that is happening in your business. Now, obviously, when it comes to remote workers, you have to have quality control in place, and we talk about that in some other videos. But when it comes down to managing your business, the whole point of growing the business, the whole design of this is that you should be elevating yourself to work on higher and higher level decision making inside the business. If you're always worried about exactly which post is going out and the exact wording of that post and trying to come up with the idea of that post, you're just not going to get very far in business. And that's okay if you want to control everything. However, when you control everything, that really limits the amount of time and creativity that you have in order to solve more complex problems that's going to help push you and your business farther with growth and helping more of your customers. The other thing that a lot of small business owners miss is we usually have a couple of skill sets or talents in some very specific parts of the business. And when it's just you or just you and maybe a very, very small team, you are not able to really focus in on that one aspect of the business that you can really excel at, and you can really apply your own skills and grow the business. So one of our goals in hiring remote workers is to take tasks off of our plate that we aren't necessarily the best at, that we aren't necessarily passionate about, and take those away from us so that way we can really focus in on the areas where we bring the most value. And this can be different for every person. This can be different for every business owner. Maybe your skill set is sales. Maybe your skill set is marketing. Maybe your skill set is ops. Whatever that is, you need to figure that out and then hire a team around you that's going to support you in the other areas of your business so you can really focus in on moving your business forward in those areas.
All right.
And so what I tell people all the time is it's probably you and me that are the biggest problems when it comes to hiring remote workers. A lot of times we simply just don't have the experience or the understanding or the expectations set correctly of how to go out and find the best remote worker for what we're trying to hire for, and to make sure that we can actually manage them, we can train them, we can onboard them, and actually give them a successful opportunity to work with our company. And so we have to really take a good look at ourselves. I had to do this when I started hiring remote workers, and I have to do this now with my current clients. I have to constantly give them feedback, even though they may not like it, even though they may not respond to it well, and say, look, from my experience of hiring so many remote workers and of building remote teams and managing remote teams for so many years, this is what you need to do in this situation. And yes, it may be a hard decision, but the quicker you can actually move on to finding better remote workers that are a good fit for your business. And so why do small business owners struggle with making sure that they can hire a good team? Well, the first reason is they just simply don't know who to hire. They don't know what skill sets necessarily that their team may need. They don't know the experience. They don't know some basic fundamental skills like communication. And a lot of times it's not only that they just don't know, is that they just don't know that they can require it, that they can ask for these things. There's a minimum standard of expectation when it comes to basic skill sets like communication, follow through, task management, that I have established and that I know is required for all of the VAs that I hire for my company and for my customers' companies. But unless you've actually gone out and you've experienced hiring and you have experience with, oh, I can actually expect this level of work from this type of employee, and I can expect this level of creativity from this level of employee, both experience-wise and pay-wise, then you're really going to struggle with understanding how to actually hire the right employee that's going to be a good fit for your team, a good fit for the tasks that you need done, and a good fit for the challenges that you have within your business.
It's a struggle.
And really think about it. If you've never hired or managed employees before, or managed employees in a large amount, meaning more than 20 or 30 employees, then you really probably don't even know how to manage and train employees. You're not aware of the systems. You're not aware of the communication strategies. You're not aware of how to build a culture. There's so many things as small business owners, forget sales, forget marketing, that we're not even trained on. We have no idea a lot of times when we're first getting started in hiring on how to create an operations department in our business and actually run it effectively. And look, I don't say these things as like, oh, you're just a big piece of crap and you need to, get your shit together. No, I'm saying this because we need to be honest and we need to be open and reflective about what our actual experiences are, what our skill sets are, and what our experiences are. And so many times this is such a huge reflective experience for small business owners. For them to start actually hiring remote workers successfully, they have to look internally at themselves and be like, hey, I need to readjust my expectations. I need to readjust my practices and my operations. And I need to make sure I'm actually working to facilitate a good experience for my remote workers. So another problem that small business owners have when it comes to hiring remote workers is they simply do not know how to train or manage their VAs. Many times they still like to defer to the sticky note method or the, hey, I told you so method. And that really does not work when you have workers working across different countries. They're remote. They're not with you in person. There's different language barriers. So English is maybe not their first language. And there's so many other details. You're trying to use different systems. They're trying to use different systems to do their job. There's a lot of complex moving parts to different projects. So the more involved that you have VAs, the more that you have them doing for your business, the less and less that you're actually going to be able to rely on some of these manual methods of communication. Remote workers are people too. They are imperfect and they have different struggles than the employees you're used to working with in your home country. And so you have to learn how to adapt and you have to learn how to overcome these different challenges and be able to solve this problem of communication within your business. And when it comes to hiring and managing and training remote workers to be successful employees in your business, everything comes down to communication. Communication is so important. And then you need to build out the systems and tools around that communication to make sure that you can successfully hire and train these remote workers. Another big problem I see with small business owners hiring remote workers is that they will hire someone who maybe performs at 50 to 75% of the level of where they should be performing at. And then maybe they'll hire someone who actually is close to 100% of performance level, but maybe they aren't the best communicator, or maybe they aren't the best task manager. There's so many different areas here where remote workers can excel and where they can really lag. And small business owners oftentimes find it to be a huge struggle to know when they should invest in training that employee and helping them get their performance level or get their basic skills up to par, or when they should just let them go. And I have to have a conversation with my clients all the time about, hey, is this a basic skill set that this person should know? Or is this something that we can train them on? And is it worth investing the time and resources to train them? Or would it just be easier to go out and find a different employee that has these basic skill sets and that we can just really focus on fine tuning them? And this is a really fine line because you do spend a decent amount of resources on hiring, training, and onboarding your remote workers. And so you don't want to just let a remote worker go that has a lot of potential, but that maybe you're seeing is struggling in some areas. And you also don't want to keep a lug around that is going to drag down the performance of your team, that's going to keep projects from being done on time. And so you really have to know how to navigate these different scenarios and these different skills and behavior sets so that way you can make a decision on, hey, is this someone I want to invest in, or is this someone that I need to go ahead and cut and find someone who can do a better job?
I'm glad you're enjoying the video. If you need help with hiring, training, or managing your VAs, make sure you click the link in the description below to check out our free VA hiring workshop. If you need one-on-one help with me, click the link to schedule an appointment to see how I can help.
One of the first ways we can make sure that we're hiring the right VA, this is probably the easiest trick I have learned, is that when you're going through the hiring and interview process, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you interview lots of candidates and ask lots of questions. This is going to help you find patterns and commonalities within what the skill set should be, what kind of experience that they should have, what kind of skill sets they should have. So if you're starting to create a job description because you want to hire a remote worker for a certain specific set of skills, like I talked about in some of my other videos, you want to go ahead and do a lot of interviews because this is going to really help you learn what to look for and how to start selecting different applicants that you want to take further on into the interview process. And so I definitely recommend that if you're just starting out hiring or you're hiring for a new position that maybe you're not quite sure, what you're looking for yet in an employee, just do a lot of interviews, ask a lot of questions, find your commonalities. That's going to be the best way to get started on identifying who the best candidates are. Now, the second trick to this is when you go ahead and you hire your candidates, make sure you hire multiple candidates at one time. This is going to help you weed out the good candidates from the not so good candidates, okay? This is going to show you which skill sets actually matter the most to you in that position and for those tasks that need to be done. And it's going to help you understand the level of basic skill sets that you want this person to have. Do they need to have really good communication? Do they need to have really good task management? Do they need to have really good skill sets around the tasks that they're going to be doing? Which areas do you think you should train? Which areas do you think the remote worker should have already? Based on hiring several different remote workers that are really good fit for this position because you went through the interview process and you selected them correctly, you're going to be able to really distinguish who actually stands out versus hiring one remote worker at a time. What you're going to see is you're going to focus on all of the benefits that they're bringing you, and you're not really going to focus on the negatives because you don't have something to compare it to. And so you really want to be able to hire several remote workers at one time so you can really get a good idea on who is going to be the best fit and what you really need for that role to be successful. How do you get good at managing and training a team? Well, the best way I have found to learn how to do this outside of going to someone like myself and getting some coaching or purchasing our workshop, which you can find in the link below, is really just spend a lot of time with your team. And you can ask questions like, hey, how is everything going? What are you struggling with? What is working really well for you? How are you doing with your tasks? How are you doing with your communication? Obviously, you don't want to ask these questions this way, but you want to ask questions about these different aspects of their job. What resources do they need? What help could they have? What could make their job easier for them? Where are they seeing a lack of support or a lack of process or system in order to be able to do their job successfully? This is how I started learning, getting input from my team, along with having some other coaches and some business advisors in my life that were helping guide me and direct me. I just spent a lot of my team and I analyzed what they were doing. How much time are certain tasks taking you? How much time could we save if we implemented a system or a new process? And really just taking the time to analyze all that. Now, I understand this takes a lot of time and a lot of resources, and it's going to take you out of doing other things in the business. But the payoff here is as you spend this time in the beginning, you won't have to spend this time ongoing, because once you've learned, you already know, and then you can apply this to every employee going forward. So when you first started hiring, you're going to have to spend the time to really understand the flow of work and project management and task management within your business and how your employees are navigating to that. If they have the skills to do the tasks that they are assigned, then you have to decide whether they have the behavioral skill sets, communication, task management, project management, etc., in order to flow through that project management, that project or task flow successfully. And this in turn is going to play into the next point I'm going to make, which is how do you know whether you should train someone and invest in them to get their skill sets up, or if you should let them go and you should look for a replacement that might be better and easier for you to manage. When you spend that time in the beginning really starting to understand their workflow, that's when it's really going to become obvious to you, hey, are we implementing good solutions that this remote worker is going to be able to implement and speed up? Or have we maybe given them some additional systems and processes and they're still struggling because maybe they're not either implementing those solutions, or maybe they just don't have the skill set in order to, perform to the level that you think they should be performing at. And so understanding this workflow and understanding how these processes, these systems work, understanding the struggles that your remote workers are having, you're really going to start to be able to see and understand where the gaps are in your remote workers and where the gaps are in your systems and processes. And so, of course, if you have gaps in your systems and processes, you need to be able to look at those and you need to be able to fix those. And then you also need to be able to understand where your employee is struggling because maybe they have some skill sets that are lacking. Now, usually when I'm looking at analyzing a remote worker and their performance, skill set is one thing and behavior skill sets are another. I can tell you from hiring so many remote workers and hiring groups of remote workers at one time that you can really see a significant difference between the communication level between someone who's really interested and passionate about what they're doing and someone who really looks at it more as just a job or completing tasks or just trying to get things done. It really stands out. Your remote workers that are really passionate and really care about getting the job done are going to be way more communicative. They're going to take a lot more initiative on making sure that they're getting the job done, that they're communicating with you to get the job done how you want it to be done. And this is really what you're looking for. You're looking for that desire for them to want to perform well. And even if they may need some correction or training, this is a great candidate that you can actually come in, you can work with, and you can help them excel and become a really good remote worker for your business. Someone who just doesn't have that drive, this for me really is the distinguishable line between, hey, should I invest in this person or not? Should I let them go and find someone else? Because if someone just does not have that drive, if they do not have that passion, if they do not have that desire to really perform at a high level, be better, communicate, and really make sure that they're doing the best job that they can, well, that person just really, you can spend a lot of time working with them. You can spend a lot of money investing in them. But generally what I've seen is that they're not going to improve enough, especially compared to going out and finding a remote worker that does care. This remote worker will get more work done at a faster speed, at a higher quality, and it will just be a greater management experience for you.
Excellent.
So when we're looking at hiring remote workers, we really want to be able to hire the best remote workers that are going to help our businesses grow. But at the same time, the whole point of this, again, is to be able to get more time and more freedom back so we can have more enjoyment of our lives, but we can also focus on higher level things in the business And so the biggest problem between all of these different aspects that I talked about today is just how much time you have to spend managing your team. It's really no point and not really a good situation if you hire a bunch of remote workers and then you have to spend all your time managing them. You should have to spend time in the beginning to hone your skills and your understanding of what's required to hire remote workers successfully, and then to train them and keep them around and keep them functioning for your team. But once you get through that process, then it should be a well-oiled machine where they just continue to work without you. Of course, you always need to manage them. You always need to have quality control, but that can be at a much lower level of management time and investment versus having a team that you're constantly having to check up on, having to constantly, double check that they're getting work done, that they're getting it done accurately, that they're doing things the way they need to do. It just becomes more of a frustration. And so this is why I see such a big disparity between business owners who say, I love remote workers, they're amazing, I've had such a great experience, and oh my gosh, I would never hire a remote worker again because I just had a terrible experience. It comes down to the business owner. They're the common denominator. You and I are the common denominator, and we're the thing that needs to get better. This doesn't mean that we're always going to hire the best remote worker possible. We are going to make some bad calls. We're going to make some good calls that honestly just don't work out in our favor. But as long as we are paying attention to doing the best we can, hiring the best remote workers, offering the best training and onboarding and environment and culture that we can for our remote workers, you will find remote workers that'll work for your team. They'll be passionate, they'll be excited, and they will help your business grow without you having to spend more time training them. Remember, my last key here is when you hire remote workers, they should allow you to have more time, not less. Again, maybe not in the beginning, but once you get them trained, onboarded, and in motion, if you find that you hired a remote worker and past the onboarding and initial training phase, you're having to spend a lot more time with them, the odds are that you need to go out and you need to find a new remote worker that is going to actually give you more time back instead of taking more of your time. Hey guys, that's the end of the video. Thanks for tuning in. If you got some value out of that, make sure you go ahead and let me know by leaving a like. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, and comments down in the comments section. And of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos. We release 3 videos a week, one on sales, one on marketing, and one on VAs. And of course, if you want to check out some of our services or products, check out the links in the description, as well as you can find information on one-on-one coaching and consulting with me, where we can dive into the specific strategies and solutions that you need in order to take your business from 6 figures to 7 figures, or low 7 figures to more 7 figures.